Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I have been getting so many questions lately within the last year or so from many of you asking me about the pros and cons of living in a small German village or a small German town. I think a lot of people here in Germany are actually considering making the move outside of some of the big German cities to the suburbs, the villages, the towns. I think the main reason why there is such an interest in this topic lately is because of the rising price of basically everything here in Germany, not only in Germany but all over the world. Due to the pandemic, I'm going to be focusing on inflation here in Germany. And if you live here, I'm sure you would have noticed that the prices of basically everything have skyrocketed in the last few years. The overall price of groceries, of eating out, just food in general, has skyrocketed. Not only that, rent has gone up, the price of properties have gone up. Basically everything is more expensive right now. If you're a family here in Germany living in a bigger city and you are renting, or you have bought a home or built a home, that is amazing. I can totally understand the reason why people are wanting to live in the bigger cities, but I also understand that there are a lot of families out there who are really struggling to be able to pay the outrageous rent right now, to be able to have enough space for their growing family, and also families who are wanting to buy a home or build a home, and property prices are just simply too expensive. And I've just been getting a lot of questions asking, like, is it worth moving outside the city? What is life like out in the suburbs of Germany? And you know, is it a good decision for my family and I to move out of the city? I'm going to be talking about our decision as a family to move outside a German city into a little village, and now we have built a house in a German town, and whether we regret it, whether we are happy with our decision. I'm going to be talking about all of that in this video. So for those of you who don't know, my family and I, about a year ago, we built a home in a small German town. The population is about 11,000. And we live in the Würzburg region, the Würzburg district, and this town is part of the district, but it is outside the main city of Würzburg. And before that, we were living in a small village with a population of about 1,500, even a little bit less. We actually originally lived in Würzburg, the main city in our area. Würzburg is a very small city. It has a population of around 130,000, which it does have that sort of bigger city vibe, but it is quite a small city. I have lived in Melbourne, Australia for a couple of years, which has a population of 5 million. So I have lived in a bigger city, but this was a very nicely sized city. But the problem is, even way back then, like 8 years ago in Würzburg, the rent was very, very expensive. And my husband was going through a career transition, and the price of renting there was just simply too much for us to have enough space to live in the city. Before we had children, we were living in a little one-bedroom apartment, but then when we had our daughter Amelia, we needed more space, and because my husband was going through that career transition, we didn't have a lot of money, and we simply could not afford to have enough space for our growing family. We only had one child at the time. So we looked outside the suburbs of Würzburg, and we found a much more affordable place to rent in a little wine village about 15 minutes from Würzburg by car. We left the city and moved to this little wine village where we lived for 7 years. I raised 2 of my children. I have 3 children, but I raised 2 of my children living in this wine village in Lower Franconia, and we had a wonderful little life there, and I have absolutely no regrets about moving outside of the city into this little village. But in saying that, there are definitely pros and cons. So the main pro was the price. We were renting at the time, and the price of rent was significantly lower, and we got a lot more sort of bang for our buck. We got a lot more space, we had a garden, and we were paying significantly less than what we were paying in the city. And that was a huge pro for us. But one of the cons was that my husband had to commute every day to Würzburg to work, so there was the travel cost on top of that, and it definitely worked out a lot cheaper than what it would be if we were renting a bigger place in Würzburg. So it's a 15-minute commute, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back every single day. My husband had to travel, and you know, it does add up, but as I said, it was significantly cheaper than if we were to rent a bigger apartment in the city. So, you know, that worked out. Another pro for us is that we lived in a very beautiful, cute part of Germany, Lower Franconia. It's a wine region. All of the little villages are very beautiful. And I am aware that not all the villages and small towns here in Germany are as cute and picturesque as the one that we were living in, but there are a lot of very lovely little towns and villages throughout Germany. And I've talked about this in other videos, but one of the cons for me personally as a New Zealander moving to this little village is the fact that people are not going to be as friendly and welcoming. Well, at least that was the case for us. People who are living in that village have been living there for generations, and you will find that in a lot of German towns and villages. These are people who have deep roots in that area, and they're not always going to be as welcoming as you would maybe hope they would be. So I had experiences where I felt not very welcome when I first moved to this particular village, but I also met some amazing people. I had some incredible neighbours, and I really got to know a lot of the locals. It did turn out to be a really wonderful place to live, but initially it was quite hard to sort of break the ice. And I have heard from a lot of my German viewers that the area of Germany where I live is actually known to be one of the most unfriendly areas of Germany and one of the hardest areas to integrate as a foreigner or even as a German. And if you're moving into a little tight-knit community in our area and you are from a different area of Germany, many of my German subscribers have told me that they have struggled with this transition. So it's not just the fact that I am a foreigner, it's the fact that this is meant to be an unfriendly area of Germany. That was kind of hard for me initially, just trying to sort of build a little bit of a community when people are already very set in their ways and have deep roots in the area where they live. Also, you have to keep in mind if you're going to be moving to a small German village or town, at least in Germany, not everybody is going to be open-minded. And I am not saying that everybody in my village were closed-minded, because I met some amazing people, as I said, but a lot of them were very, very closed-minded. And it's very different if you live in a city, even if it's a small city. But big cities in general, people tend to be more open-minded. There are going to be more people from different ethnic backgrounds and all walks of life, and different types of really interesting people. There isn't going to be the variety of people and the open-mindedness if you live in a small German town or village. But in saying that, one of the things I actually love about the landscape here in Germany, at least in the area where I live, I know it's quite similar in other parts of Germany too. When you live in a small town, the next city is never usually very far away. So in my case, Würzburg, which was the closest biggest city, was not far at all away. It was a 15-minute drive, or I could jump on the bus and get into the city whenever I wanted. And so I kind of had the best of both worlds. I had the village where I was living, and as I said, it was a beautiful little village, wonderful place for my kids to grow up. There was a playground, there was a river, there was an ice cream parlor, there were restaurants, and it was a cute little village. But if I had enough of that like village life, I could escape into the city and it wouldn't take me long to get away. And there was also a small town just a stone throw away, which had basically everything I needed. An advantage to living in a small village is that not a lot of people actually speak English in these smaller towns and cities. You'll find in the bigger cities a lot more people speak English, and there are a lot more foreigners and people from different backgrounds. But when you're in a little town or a village, it is a lot harder to find English speaking people, which is a really good thing if you are wanting to fully immerse yourself in the German culture. Just say you are an expat or a foreigner, and you are forced to speak German because not everybody understands English, and that's a really good thing. But it can also be a negative thing if you do not speak any German at all, if you've just recently moved to the country, and it can be quite lonely if you cannot talk to anybody in English. But you know, that can be a pro and a con. I think it is a pro not having people in English to speak to, because it forces you to step outside your comfort zone and Immerse yourself in the language. Also, another thing, if you have children, it can be very, very hard to find a childcare or a kindergarten spot. In some of the biggest cities in Germany, you can be waiting and waiting to try and get a spot in this kindergarten or childcare centre, and you can be waiting for so long and just not be able to get a spot for your child. If you are living in a smaller town or village in Germany, you are most likely going to straight away get a spot for your child. I honestly don't regret my decision to move to a little German village. I have got wonderful, wonderful memories of those early years when my children were really little, and just hanging out in the village and hanging out at the river and going to the ice cream parlor, and my kids just absolutely loved that little village and were so attached to it, and it just became sort of like part of them. And as I said, now we are living in a small town with a population of around 11,000, and we are very, very happy living here. We love it. So for our family personally, it was a great decision moving from a city to a little German village and renting a house there and then building a house in a German town. But obviously people's circumstances are different. People are at different stages of their life. This may not be a good option for you, but many of you have been asking me, was it worth it moving to a German village and living in a German town, and would I recommend it? And on a whole, absolutely. If you're a family living in a small apartment and you're paying ridiculously high rent and you don't have enough space for your growing family, I do think looking a little bit outside into the suburbs, the villages, you know, the towns, it's a really great option. You're going to be getting a lot more for your money, and it's not all that bad. Of course, there are going to be pros and cons, but there are pros and cons to everything. So I would recommend it personally. Obviously, it depends on your situation, but so many of you have been asking me my thoughts on this, and I just wanted to share them in my video today. So anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it interesting, maybe helpful. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I would love you to consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. I know that so many of you who watch my videos are not actually subscribed, so if you would subscribe, that would mean so much to me. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram, and I will see you again really soon. Bye!